Hi there, and welcome to another HOI4 mining lesson on the Iron Workshop. In this lesson, we'll be revisiting creating new ideologies in HOI4. Now, while not a lot has changed in HOI4 with regards to creating new ideologies, things have changed with regards to the tools that we will use in order to create new ideologies. And hopefully with these new tools that are now available to us, the whole process will be easier and quicker. So I hope you will enjoy this lesson. With all that said, let's roll the intro and get started. As usual, when creating new content for HOI4, our first step is to create our new mod. If you don't know how to do that, I will have a separate lesson on that in the upper right corner of the screen, so make sure to check that out before proceeding to step number 2. If you already know how to do that, or if you've already done that, we can safely proceed to step number 2, creating our folder and file structure. In step number 2, we will be creating our folder and file structures. These folders and files are essential for your new ideology to work in the game, and in most cases they have to mirror the existing files and folders that exist in vanilla HOI4. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open two folders. The first folder is going to be the folder of my new mod, which I created in step number 1. It's totally fine if the name of your mod is different. The name isn't really important. The second folder that I'm going to open is the vanilla or base HOI4 folder. And you can find this folder in Steam, Steam Apps, Common, HOI4. And from here, we're going to move some folders and files into our mod. So let's start. The first folder that we need is the common folder. So let's go ahead and create that folder inside of our mod folder. From the common folder, we will need another folder called ideologies. So let's find it. Here we are. And we're going to create that inside of the common folder. From the ideologies folder, we will need the ideologies.txt file. So let's go ahead and copy it inside of the ideologies folder of our mod. Excellent. Now I'm going to go back to the root folder, the starting folder of my mod, and I'm going to do the same for HOI4. The next folder we'll need is the GFX folder. So let's go ahead and create that in our mod. From inside the GFX folder, we will need the interface folder. So once again, let's go ahead and create that. From inside the interface folder, we will need the ideologies folder. So let's find that one. Here we are. I'm going to recreate this folder in my own mod. And from inside this folder, you need to copy one of these files. Doesn't really matter which one. We're going to be changing these files anyway. I'm going to grab the communism group icon, and I'm going to copy it into my mod, and I'm going to change its name to monarchism, which is going to be the name of my new ideology. It's very important that this name corresponds to the name that we will give our new ideology in the ideologies file, which we will talk about in step number 3. Now, another thing that I should mention is that it's a good idea to keep the underscore group name in here, just to follow the convention laid out in the game so far. Unfortunately, as you can see, Paradox themselves seem to have abandoned this naming convention in here for some reason, probably because anarchism isn't really working the same way as the other ideologies. Regardless, you should keep the underscore group for the sake of consistency. All right, let's go back to the root folder of our mod and of HOI4. The next folder we'll need is the interface folder. So let's create that. From inside the interface folder, we'll need one of these GFX files, .gfx. So I'm going to grab this first one, and I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to change its name to new ideology graphics. All right, we'll go back to the root folder The next folder we'll need is the localization folder. So let's go ahead and recreate that one. From inside the localization folder, we'll need the English folder. Of course, if you're creating your mod for a different language, use one of the other available languages. So let's recreate the English folder. And from this folder, we'll need a file called parties. So let's find that one. Here we are. I'm going to copy this file and I'm going to paste it in here. And now we are done creating our folder and file structures. We can close HOI4. One thing that you will notice is that while creating these folders, I usually copy and pasted the names instead of typing them manually. The reason that I do this is to reduce any errors that might happen when I type the name of these folders. If one of these folders isn't named correctly, your mod will not work. So copy and paste is the safest way to ensure that you don't have any errors with the names of your files and folders, and is the best practice to use when you need to recreate the path to a certain file or folder in your mod. Alright, so we're done with step number 2. We'll now proceed to step number 3, editing the ideologies.txt file. In step number 3, we will be editing the ideologies.txt file. This file is actually responsible for creating the ideology in the game. So let's go ahead and see what it's all about. I'm going to open the root folder of my mod. I'll go to common, ideologies, ideologies. Now, the best practice when creating your new ideology is to copy an existing ideology entry and just edit it to fit your new ideology. So in here we have the democratic ideology as the first ideology. So we're going to copy this one and just change it a bit to fit our new ideology. Now the democratic ideology starts here with this opening bracket or curly brace and ends in here with this closing bracket or curly brace. So we're going to have to copy this entire section and just paste it. So I'm going to select everything by holding the Shift key on my keyboard. I'm going to right click, copy. Let's make some new room in here and we'll paste it in here. All right. Now let's change democratic to our new ideology, which is going to be monarchism. As I mentioned before, it is very important that the name of your ideology or the ID of your ideology in here fits the name which you gave it previously when we were copying the GFX file and renaming it. So in here, monarchism has to fit the name that we give it in here. Next, we have our ideology subtypes. So obviously we want to change these. I'm going to remove this one and I will just create a couple of one. And I'm just going to create some new ones. Let's create the absolute monarchy subtype and the constitutional monarchy. Now, there's a lot of other options in here which you can change, and I'm going to let you discover them on your own. One more thing that I'm going to mention is the color in here. This is the color that you will see in the ideologies map mode in the game, and the color which you will see in the political pie or the political wheel when you're viewing politics in the game. So obviously we want to change this color to be more distinct. The colors in here use RGB codes, so you will need to get the proper RGB code for the color that you want to use. One easy way to do that is to use paint.net. So if you open paint.net, you have your color wheel in here. If you click on more, it will show you the RGB codes for all the colors. So let's just say that I want my monarchy color to be this purple color. So these are the codes that I have to use. So the first one is R for red, the next one is G for green, and B for blue. So let's go ahead and apply this color. This is our first color, R, so it's going to be 141. The next one is going to be 35 and 255, which is already set. So we now have our new distinct color for our new ideology. I'm going to save the file and we're basically done. Our ideology will already work in the game, but of course there are a couple more things that we have to do in order to make it work properly. So let me just close this and this. And now we'll proceed to step number 4, creating our ideology icon. In step number 4, we will be creating our ideology icon. So let's go ahead and open our mod folder. We'll go to GFX, Interface, Ideologies. And now we want to edit this icon that we took from the base game. I'm going to use paint.net to edit this icon. If you don't have paint.net, I will have a link to the download of paint.net in the description of this video. So go ahead and grab it. If you want to use other software which you're comfortable with using that can save DDS files, go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab this icon into paint.net, open. And now we have to change it a bit. Now I won't go too much into changing it right now because that is really not the focus of this lesson. I just want to make sure that we see some kind of a difference. So let's go ahead and do something like this, just to see that it's different. And now we're going to save our new icon. So I'll go to File, Save. In this window, I won't be changing any settings. Click on OK, and our new ideology icon is ready to be used. Let's proceed to step number 5, creating our ideology flags. In step number 5, we will be creating our new ideology flags. Now, if you were to start Hardfire 4 now with your new ideology mod, you will probably encounter a lot of these errors. Now, these errors are here because the game expects to have a flag for every ideology that exists in the game. So this is exactly what we're going to be handling now in this step number 5. So I'm going to close this. Now I have to say that this step is a bit more complex than the previous steps, and it's okay if it doesn't work right for you on the first try. In case things go wrong, just start the lesson over or from the previous step, and eventually things will work out for you. But don't be discouraged if on the first try things don't work out exactly as they should. Okay, so we're going to be doing a couple of things in this step. I'm going to open my mod, and I'm also going to be opening Hardfire 4 vanilla or base game folder. Now we'll go into the GFX folder, and I'll do the same for Hardfire 4. And inside of our mod GFX folder, I'm going to create the flags folder. And I'll go into flags here. So what we're going to be doing now is selecting a category of flags to be used as a template for our new flags. So I'm going to recreate the small folder as it is in here in the flags folder inside of my mod. I'll go in here, and now I'm going to search for every flag that has neutrality in its name, because the neutrality flags are usually the flags that are as close as possible to monarchy flags. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll search for neutrality. This could take a while for the search to complete, so just wait for it to complete in here, and only once it's done, continue. Okay, so now we're going to grab all of these flags. I'm going to press Ctrl+A on my keyboard, and I'm going to copy all of these flags in here. Excellent. Now we're going to go back into the flags folder. Same in here. And we will recreate the medium folder. And I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to search for neutrality. Ctrl+A, and I'm going to copy all of these things, all of these flags in here as well. Excellent. And now we have to handle our main flags. So in order to grab our main flags only, we're going to have to do something a bit more complex. I'm going to create in here a new folder called large, because these are the large flags. And I'm going to select all of them. And I'll just move them into the large folder. In here, once again, I'm going to search for neutrality. And I'm going to select all of these flags and copy them over to my mod. Just like this. Excellent. And now I'm going to revert this change that I did. So I'm going to select all the flags, right click, cut, and put them in here. And we no longer need this folder. Okay, so things should now be back to normal. Okay, now the reason that I did this whole thing with the large folder is because when you search in Windows in here, it searches in all of the files and the subfolders of this folder, which means that if I were to copy flags from just searching neutrality in here, I would get small flags, medium flags, and large flags. And the small and medium flags would not be placed in the corresponding folders. They would just be copied in here with the large flags, which is incorrect, and we definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so now that we have our template flags, the flags to be used for our new ideology, we're going to have to rename all of these flags into our new ideology, so that instead of underscore neutrality, it says underscore monarchism. And the way that we're going to do that is by using a special tool of the Iron Workshop, the flag creator. Now I'll have a link to the download of the flag creator in the description of this video. I'll also have a link in the upper right corner of the screen to a video explaining how to download and install the flag creator. So once you have the flag creator all set up and working, you can open it. So this is what I'm going to do now. We're going to open it. And in the flag creator, I'm going to go to Tools, click on Flag Name Changer. Okay, let's open our folder with our new flags. And I'm going to copy the path of these flags in here and put it in here. Next, I'm going to put in the alt text the underscore neutrality, or actually just neutrality, that should be fine. And in our new text, I'm going to put monarchism. Now, be very careful in here, because obviously we need the name to be correct, otherwise our flags will not be recognized by the game. And I'm going to click on Rename Files. And now you see that all of our files in here have underscore monarchism. Next, we'll go into the small folder. I'm just going to copy the path of this folder, put it in here, and do the same thing. And the same thing for the medium folder. Rename files. Okay, so now the game has all the flags for monarchism that it needs, and we are done with step number 5. Now, obviously, if you want to customize flags and create flags that are more fitting to a monarchy, you can take a look at a separate lesson on how to do that. For now, we will proceed to step number 6, creating our ideology localization. In step number 6, we will be creating our ideology localization. So let's go ahead and open our localization folder. and open the parties_L_English file. In this file, we'll need to put entries for our new ideology. And for the sake of order, it's best to put these things together and not spread them apart. As you can see with the case of communism, our first entry is here, then we have the noun in here, and then we have the description suddenly in here. I'm not sure why, but that's how it is in the vanilla game. So if we put monarchism and we give it its name, I'm going to follow the structure of the other entries. So it's monarchist. Then we have our noun. So monarchism_noun. Now that's going to be monarchism. And then we have our description, kings, queens, and such. Excellent. So this is the basic localization for our new ideology. Another localization that we can put in here is the localization for the parties. Now, the parties are the sub-ideologies that we've created in our ideologies file. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So absolute monarchy. So we can put the localization in here for that, so that it shows that it's absolute monarchy, like that. And we have our constitutional monarchy, which we can put like that. Excellent. Now, another thing which you can put in this file is localization for parties for specific country. So if we scroll down here, you see that each party has its country tag. So for Poland, the Communist Party is called this. For the United Kingdom, the Communist Party is called this. And each party has its short name and has its long name. Now, I won't be adding these, but you can definitely add these later on if you want to. There is one more step that we need to make in order to finish our localization. And this step will require some outside resources, which I have prepared and which I will have a link to in the description of this video. So what exactly am I talking about? Each country in the game has a localization entry that corresponds to every ideology in the game, so that the game knows how to refer to that country when it is assigned that ideology. So right now, the base game localization contains all the base game ideology localizations. So for example, when the Soviet Union becomes a democracy, it's called Russia. I'm just giving an example, I may be wrong on this. And obviously when it's communist, it's the Soviet Union, and so on. So obviously we will need to assign our own localization to the ideology to be used by the countries that will have our new ideology. If this is a bit confusing, let's just go over the files and you will see that it's much more simple and that it's not that complicated. First of all, we will need to grab another file from the base game folder. So I've opened my mod folder here on the left. I'll go into the localization English folder. In HOI4, I will go to localization English, and in here I'm going to search for countries. Now I will grab the countries_L_English file and just move it into my mod, just like this. And let's open it. Now the resource that you will need, and which again I will have a link to in the description of this video, is a file that I've prepared where you can just add the localization entries for a new ideology that you want to put in the game. So as you can see in here, there's a lot of entries for the various ideologies, and it doesn't make sense for you to start inputting your new ideology into each of these countries individually. So I have prepared a file where that has been taken care of, and you just need to change a certain field and it will make the job much easier. So let's take a look at that. As you can see, we have all the countries that are currently in HOI4, in the latest version of HOI4. So what we need to do here, once you get to this page, click on raw, and then just copy everything from this screen. Go to Notepad++. I would recommend opening a new tab here before you actually paste anything. Paste everything that we got from that web page. Now you can go up. Obviously you can read the instructions, but I will explain what we need to do here. Let me just get rid of this. So right now we have this your ideology field in here, and that is what we will need to change to our new monarchy ideology. So the way that you can do this is by highlighting this your ideology and then pressing Ctrl and F on your keyboard together. This will bring up the find window. Then you need to go to replace, and now we will replace your ideology with the ideology that we have created. Just to be sure, and this is something that I highly recommend that you do, I'm going to go into my ideologies folder and make sure that I copy it from here to make sure that I get the spelling correctly. So once I put it in here in the replace with field, make sure that match whole word only is not selected. We don't need backward direction. We do need to match case, and you can keep a wraparound as well. Click on replace all. And now every country in the game has the assigned monarchism ideology name. Now another thing that you may want to do is to change how the names of countries appear, so that in certain interfaces you would see Kingdom of Andalusia and not just Andalusia. So to do that, just highlight this section in here, exactly the way that I'm doing it right now. Press Ctrl+F, and then we're going to make the following change. We're going to paste this in the replace field, and then we're going to type Kingdom of space and click on replace. And now you see that all of these countries will have Kingdom of as a prefix. Now I do have to admit that it's not perfect, and some custom countries or some formable nations might come out wrong, and there's really no one clear way to catch that, because there's a lot of combinations, and these countries are handled a bit differently. If you do notice something that is completely off, you can just go back to this file and change it and fix it, and then apply it to the country's L English file. So now that we're done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything by pressing Ctrl+A on my keyboard, and I'm going to apply it to the country's L English file. The way that I'm going to do that is just putting all the text that I copied at the end of the file. Just like this. Alright, so now every country knows that if it has the monarchism ideology, it will be called the Kingdom of something. Alright, so we're now done with applying our ideology localization. Okay, so with step number 6 complete, our new ideology is now finished and should be working in the game. Let's go ahead into the game and see how it looks. Alright, so here we have our monarchist ideology with its unique color that we've assigned in the ideologies file, the localization, and if the country had this ideology, then we would see the icon in here as well. So that is it for creating a new ideology. Now obviously you can see a problem here with how adding a fifth ideology creates a problem in this section of the political screen, and that is something that we will talk about in the bonus section of this video, how you can possibly solve this problem. For now, thank you very much for watching. If you encountered a problem or if something doesn't work, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to help you. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like so that others can see it as well and learn how to create new ideologies as well. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. In this bonus section, I'm going to talk briefly about how you assign your new ideology to a country or a country leader. So let's assume, for example, that I want to make the United States a monarchy with my new monarchism ideology. So to do that, I will need to open the country history file. And that one is located in Heartfire 4, History, Countries. And in here, we will need to locate the United States file. Now, obviously, if you are creating a mod, you will need to copy this file to your mod with this path preserved. So you will need to create a history folder, a countries folder, and then put the USA file in there. So I already have this file open in here. And in these history files, you will find lines like these: set politics, ruling party, democratic, for example. So obviously this line tells the game that the United States should be a democratic country. And all I need to do is to take my ideology, place it in here, decide if my country has elections or not. If I don't want it to have election, I just put no in here and I remove the election frequency. One more important thing that I should mention is that if you want to give your new ideology some popularity in the country, you can also do that by adding monarchism in here and then giving it the percentage. Now, it's very important that the overall percentage here of all the ideologies comes up to 100%. So I can't put 50, 99, and 1 in here. What I can do, for example, is to put 50 here, 40 here, 10 here, something like that. Overall, it comes to 100%. If all the ideologies in the set popularities together are not equal to 100%, then you will have issues in the game because the game doesn't really know how to apply them properly. It might give one ideology like 100 or something else. Regardless, you should always make sure that when you put percentages in here, overall they reach 100%. Now, just making your country a monarchy doesn't mean that the country leader that's assigned to it he will be of the monarchist ideology. If we look down here, we have Franklin Delano Roosevelt as the president, and his ideology is not of the type monarchism. Remember that in the ideologies file, we have the ideology and its types. Now, currently, FDR doesn't have the subtype of the monarchist ideology, and we will need to change that. In order to change that, you will need to locate the characters file. That one is located in Heartfire 4, common characters. And here each country tag has a file for its characters. Once again, I have it open in here. And as you can see in here, we have FDR. And he has his own country leader ideology. In this case, it's the subtype for the democratic ideology, which is liberalism. So if I want him to have a corresponding ideology, I will need to give him either the absolute monarchy or the constitutional monarchy subtype, like this, and then he will appear as the country leader. If I don't do that, what the game is going to do is just assign a random leader that the game will generate, especially if it's an ideology that doesn't exist in the base game, right? So the game will generate some kind of a generic leader, and you will not see your leader. You always need to make sure that if you want to see the leader that you want to rule the ideology, then the two need to correspond. You need both the ideology as the ruling ideology and the leader to have the corresponding sub-ideology, the ideology type. All right, so I hope that makes it clear. I've seen a lot of questions about this in the comments on previous videos. So I hope this helps you. Next, we're going to talk about how to solve the ideology list GUI problem. The last bonus section of this video lesson is going to talk about how to solve a very common problem that arises once you add new ideologies into Heartfire 4. So if we look here in the politics screen, we see that our new ideology has pushed all of these ideologies down. And now we have this really annoying overlapping of the names and symbols of the ideologies over the interface below. And that looks really bad. And of course, if you add even more ideologies, eventually you'll get to a situation where they won't fit in this small section, and then you simply can't add any more ideologies because it looks really bad, and at some point the player won't be able to even see your new ideologies. So let's see how we can fix this by applying a simple scroll bar in this section that will allow you to scroll to see all the ideologies. So let me just close the game. We'll come back to it later. So as I said, what we're going to do is to add a scroll bar. Now to do that, we're going to have to copy another file from the base game. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll need a file from the interface folder. We already have it here in our mod. So let's go into the interface folder of HOI4 and look for a file called countryPolitics. This is the file that we need, countryPolitics.GUI. Please make sure that you're not copying the .gfx file, but the .GUI file. So we're going to copy it over here. And this is the file that we'll have to add it in order to add our scroll bar. Now I already have this file open in Notepad++. On the right, you see the code that we're going to apply, and on the left is the code that we are going to change. So in this file, in the countryPoliticsView.GUI file, there's a section called chart explanation. So you'll need to locate that section. Now, in this case, it's in line 55, but if you're watching this in the future, it is possible that it will be on a different line number. So what I would suggest is to just search for it. So press Ctrl+F on your keyboard and then just type in here chart explanation, click on find next, and it should point you directly where it is located. All right, so now we're going to make a couple of changes here. I'm just actually going to copy this code over here from container window to this closing bracket, just like here, until this closing bracket, and replace the code. But I do want to talk about it a little bit so that you understand exactly what we're doing. So let's take a look at this code and see what is it that we're changing. So first of all, we have our name. The name remains as is, no problems there. We are going to change the position a little bit, since adding the scroll bar is going to change things around a little bit, so we will need to push things around. So you see that the position is changed from 18 to 300 on the x-axis and from 116 to 305 on the y-axis. Great. Next we have size. So in here as well, we're going to change a couple of things in order to make everything fit. Next we have clipping. So in here you see that it says clipping no, and we're changing this to clipping yes. What this tells the game is that the name of the political parties and their icons now must be contained inside of that little box where we have them. They can't spill outside of it. They have to stay in there. And once you tell the game that, then the next logical step is to tell it, okay, I want you to add a scroll bar. And that is the code for adding a vertical scroll bar. Excellent. Next we have our margin, just put it in as is. Then we have to add our background. Now in here we are fooling the game a little bit because we are telling it that there's a background behind the names of the political parties, when in fact we're not putting any image in there. The image should go in here, just as you see here, but we're not putting any image in there. That's fine, we don't need an image there. And what this does is that it creates the box, the size of the box for our scroll bar. And without having this background, this will not work for you. So it's very important to have that included as well. Next, we have our grid box type, which is very similar to what's in here, with a few changes and things moved around. So just make sure to change the values in the same way as they are here on the right, change them here on the left. I'm just going to copy the code over. Let me just zoom in as much as possible so you can see things as clearly as possible, and just apply all these changes to your file. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to copy the code from here, I'm going to paste it in here, just like this, and I'm going to save the file. So now that we've done this, let's see how this looks in the game. Alright, so now the list of political parties has this nice scroll bar, and we can see all the political parties no matter how many we are adding to the game. So that is it for this lesson. Thank you for sticking around for the bonus content. Again, if you had any issues, please let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to help you. If it's a complicated issue, I highly recommend that you go to the Iron Workshop Discord server, where it will be much easier to get help for more complicated issues. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.